Hi, thanks for joining me today. My name is Megan. I'm a librarian from the Twin Rivers branch of the Mercer County Library, and today we're going to be making easy pizza crust. Okay, so to start, we are going to start with regular all-purpose flour in a big mixing bowl. Our recipe calls for 2 cups to 2 1/3 cups, depending on how sticky your dough is, of flour. To start, we're going to have 1 cup of flour that we're going to scoop with a spoon. Oops, sorry, my cat's coming in. Go. And keep scooping our cup of flour. Okay, and level that off. Okay. All right. 1 cup of flour goes into our bowl. And we're going to add our other dry ingredients to our first cup of flour. We're going to start with, okay, a 1/4 teaspoon of granulated onion. You can add a little bit more if you like a little bit more of an oniony flavor. It's just going to give our crust a little bit of flavor so it doesn't just taste like plain flour. And then we are going to add the same 1/4 teaspoon of granulated garlic. We are going to add 1 1/2 teaspoons of plain granulated sugar. That's tablespoons, not a teaspoon. We have awfully sweet pizza crust. All right, so 1 and 1/2 teaspoons of sugar. Okay, ooh, I forgot my salt. We need 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. Okay. Okay, so that is our sugar. 1 1/2 teaspoons, 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of dried garlic, a 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder, and we are going to add 1 packet of instant yeast. If you don't have packets of yeast and you have jars of loose instant yeast, you're going to use 2 1/4 teaspoons. That's equal to 1 packet. Okay. All right. Now we are going to mix all of our dry ingredients together. Come on, I got a fuzz in my bowl. Make sure those are well incorporated. And now we are going to put in 3/4 of a cup of tap hot water. And we are going to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Okay, and there's our olive oil. Okay, we are going to mix this until it is well combined. Okay. And now we are going to gradually add our last cup of flour. So we have a total of 2 cups of flour in our bowl. And before you add your last cup of flour, this is what your dough should look like. It's nice and smooth, and it shouldn't have any big lumps in it. Okay, so we will gradually add our second cup of flour. You can just shake a little of this in at a time as you mix to make sure everything is well incorporated. The last of our flour. Okay, and just keep mixing this until all of your flour is incorporated. It's going to start taking on a nice dough-like consistency, and you'll be able to form it into a nice ball with your spoon or your spatula. Once you've got all of that flour incorporated into your dough, you're going to have a nice ball. Now, you are going to take a second clean bowl, and what you're going to do is you are going to put a little bit of olive oil into your bowl, because we're going to transfer that dough to our oiled bowl where it can rise. Okay, so, transfer this nice ball of dough. You can use your hands or you can just dump it in there. I'm going to use my hands, smooth a little bit of flour on there, and we are going to, it's nice and sticky. Take that, swirl our olive oil around our bowl, and we're going to put our dough in there. Okay, and nice and messy. I get my towel. All right, now we are going to let this dough rest in a nice warm spot. You can put it at the back of your oven or wherever it is not cold in your kitchen. And we're gonna let that rest for about 45 minutes to an hour. You want to see your dough having about doubled in size. So we're gonna go ahead and cover this. And we're gonna let it sit, and we are gonna let it rise for about, Welcome back. It's been about an hour, and our pizza dough has risen by almost a little more than half, or twice its size, sorry. And our pizza dough now looks like that. It's all nice and bubbly and the size of our bowl. So, what we are gonna do, I have a rolling pin and a piece of parchment paper. Makes it a little bit easier to roll on. Now I have a pizza stone. You do not need a pizza stone. You can use a cookie sheet, a flat-sided cookie sheet with no problem at all. It will work perfectly. But I've got my paper cut to the size of my pizza stone, and I'm just putting that down on top. Now we've got our dough. You are going to take a little bit of flour, and you're just gonna dust it over the top of your dough so it doesn't stick to your hands. And you're just gonna punch the air down out of that dough and just flatten it out with your fingers. Okay. Now, it's gonna be a little bit sticky because the olive oil that we put in the bowl before. So, you're gonna need to use a little bit of flour to make it so that the dough does not stick to your hands or stick to your surface. And we're just gonna knead this a few times in our bowl. And if it's sticking to your fingers, just dust a little bit more flour on top. And we just want it to look nice and smooth. Okay, I've got a nice, smooth, round ball of dough. That's what our pizza dough looks like. Now, I'm going to take my dough and I'm going to put it in the center of my parchment. And I am going to dust the top with a little bit more flour because I'm going to be rolling it, and I'm going to dust my rolling pin with flour. And now you're just going to roll your dough out to the size and thickness that you want. It sticks a little bit to the paper, and it's going to bounce back on you. So you're going to have to roll and push it out until you get your desired size and shape. Now I just have my parchment on top of my pizza stone, so I know I'm going to roll it to be the size of my stone. Once I've got my dough rolled to the correct size, we're going to add toppings. You can add whatever toppings your heart desires. Today, because I like mushrooms and black olives, we are going to make a mushroom and black olive pizza. So, my dough is rolled out all nice in a circle. I'm going to bring you to the table so you can see. Here we go. It's a nice rolled out pizza crust. Okay. All right. And we're back. Okay. And now we've got our crust. You are going to take a fork, just a fork, and you're going to poke some holes along the bottom of your crust. And those holes are just going to keep any bubbles from forming in your crust. Okay, like I said, any toppings that your heart desires. I'm just adding some sauce. You can use jar, you can make it from scratch, you can do whatever you want. I just made my sauce from scratch with some tomato sauce and some herbs and spices. I'm spreading that on there. Okay. Now, I'm going to use about 8 ounces of shredded mozzarella cheese. We're just going to sprinkle that on top of our crust. If you like more cheese, you can use more than 8 ounces. You can use mozzarella, you can use Parmesan, you can use Reggiano, you can use whatever kind of cheese or whatever mix of cheeses you want. This is all about customization. We all know pizza. Everyone has their favorite kind. Okay. I've got all that dough, or all that cheese on my dough. And now I'm just going to spread the rest of my toppings. My black olives, which I've chopped, I'm just going to go round. You just want to spread it evenly along your crust. I think that's enough. And now my mushrooms, which are just cut up stems and pieces of mushrooms. Okay. And that is all you're going to do. Now your pizza is ready to bake. You just heard that beep in the background. That's my oven preheating. You want your oven to be at 425 degrees. Welcome back to Homemade Pizza Crust. Our pizza has come out of the oven and this is what we have. Okay. And that's it. You've got your homemade pizza crust. Nice and crunchy and all ready to go. Thank you for joining me today for your homemade pizza crust, and I hope you have a good time making it at home yourself. Bye.